Hi, Matt.
Hi, Matt.
Hello.
Hi, great to see you. How are you?
We're
We're really
well,
good,
all
thank you.
great.
How are you?
Great. Looking forward to a lockdown Christmas.
It will certainly be something.
Yeah. Who's got the first question?
I have got
Ben
the
has.
first question. Matt, what I would like to ask you is what other prolific artists have inspired your work?
Well, I always like cartoons that are about the jokes, really. So my heroes are lots of New Yorker cartoonists. There's one called Arnie Levin, who I loved. There's a guy called Leo Cullum, who I think is wonderful. And the new ones are sort of very, very funny as well. And Gary Larson is a great hero of mine as well. I think he's stopped for a long time, and I think he might be starting soon to do some cartoons again, which is exciting for me. But it's for me, it's always about the jokes. I sort of I want a cartoon to make me laugh. So those are always, and you can see great cartoons in Private Eye and The Oldie, and I have the thing is with British cartoonists, I have a very strange reaction if I see a great joke in a by another cartoonist on the news. My first reaction is rage that I didn't think of it myself. um, so sometimes, actually, if I look at New Yorker cartoonists, I feel I'm not in direct competition with them, and I can just enjoy it a bit more. But there are many great joke cartoonists around.
Wow, that's really interesting. Thank you. I also want to ask, do you think that the landscape around politically orientated cartoons have changed a little bit over the last decade?
The thing that's changed enormously is social media, and people are just a lot angrier now. I mean, there are sort of serious subjects that people feel passionately about, like, for example, Brexit. And I know, I mean, I tried this sort of rather ridiculous policy of doing jokes that were some a little bit pro-Brexit, some a little bit anti-Brexit, thinking that, well, then I'll please both sides. But actually, what I ended up doing was annoying everyone. And, and people, I seem to remember when I started, people could disagree about things without becoming furious. But and funnily enough, the jokes, I mean, people got a bit cross about some of my Brexit jokes, but recently I've done some jokes about electric cars. And that makes people furious. I
Really?
mean, that,
Oh,
uh, um, and I think actually my wife might get an electric car, but the sort of hatred online for me about teasing electric cars was sort
insane.
of terrifying. Yeah. I might be run over by a man very quietly by somebody in a electric car. Uh, so it just, people are angrier, and people are less willing, I think, to laugh at something that that is sort of on their side of the argument. So people are not quite so happy to be teased anymore, which is a shame. I mean, I'm going to carry on do it. I just know that they're going to be furious with me. So that's changed a bit.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right, so I've got the next question for you, Matt.
Excellent.
What is the advantage of a cartoon over a photograph?
The big advantage is that you can make anything up. So you can draw, um, space aliens landing and asking to see the prime minister, or you can draw people on a desert island, or I've actually recently literally drawn the coronavirus talking. So it's a sort of, it would be difficult to get a photograph of that, but you really are only limited by your imagination.
Mm.
And for political cartoonists who draw the politicians, they can draw them sort of with a Christmas tree falling on them, or, sort of running around in their pants, or whatever they want to do, however they want to humiliate. a politician, they can do it. And I had a friend who worked at the Telegraph called Nicholas Garland, and when Mrs. Thatcher was Prime Minister, he famously drew one of her ministers drawing a little moustache, an Adolf Hitler moustache on Chancellor Kohl, because this minister had said that he thought Germany was trying to take over Europe again with the strength of their industry and money. So Nick Garland drew this minister drawing a little Hitler moustache on Chancellor Kohl, and the minister had to resign. And it was sort of because of the cartoon. And he hadn't done, he hadn't drawn the Hitler moustache, it was a cartoon, but because it was sort of, it was such a strong image, and it made this minister look sort of slightly anti-German and racist. It sort of forced him into a position, and it was reprinted everywhere and shown on the telly, and and so actually you can sort of, with a very powerful image, you can do quite a bit of damage. The poor minister had to quit.
I didn't realize how powerful cartoons could be.
Yeah,
I think there's a cartoonist called Steve Bell on The Guardian who loves to try and destroy mostly Tory politicians. And he's always furious when the politician rings to buy the original, because what everyone forgets is that politicians, like all of us, are very vain. So as long as it's about them, they sort of want to hang it in their loo to show off to their friends. Look, somebody drew me as a slug. So exactly.
So the next question I have for you is, when do you think that the satire of these political figures, these politicians, goes too far, if it can go too far?
I think William Hague once said that when he was being attacked, he had to think that there are two people. There's the person I really am, and there's another imaginary William Hague figure that everyone sort of loathes and thinks that is ridiculous, and sort of and I think that it can get, it's easy to, I mean, a bit like we were saying about how angry everyone gets and how polarized the country is. It's sometimes easy to forget that these people are human beings, who are trying their best. I mean, some of them may be not quite up to it, but it must be pretty tough every day I mean, I think they have thicker skins, but I think sort of, especially, I mean, I get a tiny bit of trolling online, which I can just about cope with, but a female minister will get horrific sort of violent threats and sort of sexual threats online, and you just think, well, that's just not accept, just because she's suggested a policy you disagree with. I think it's, I mean, I've strayed off cartooning a bit, but I think that you've got to remember they are human beings.
absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. All right, my first question is, do you take into account the personal opinions and feelings that you may be offending? And if so, how do you construct your art to avoid this?
I do. I mean, it's funny, the things that upset people, and the things, because sometimes I do cartoons and I think, oh dear, this might upset someone. For example, I got into a habit of doing, if somebody very well known and well loved dies, I do a little joke about it the next day. And there was you're probably too young, but there was a a man called Jeremy Beadle who did lots of pranks on telly and sort of and when he died, I did something like him doing a prank in heaven or something, putting a bucket on the gates that would fall on someone or someone. And I thought, oh, I wonder if this is possible. You know, I wonder if this is going to upset the family. And the next day I got a phone call and it was from a member of the family. And I sort of cringed and thought I'm going to have to start apologizing very quickly. And they said, we'd like to use the cartoon in the funeral service to print it on the back page. And so I was very relieved and said, of course, you know, absolutely. And, you know, and then that has happened quite a lot that, you know, I've done cartoons about people who've died and they've used the cartoon in the funeral on the sheet in the funeral. But then you do a cartoon about floods and somebody has their carpet ruined and they're very upset, you know, and they don't think you should be making a joke about a flood. And so it's sort of, I'm afraid to say in every news story, there's usually a victim somewhere, you know, and with coronavirus, which I've been doing jokes on for the whole year, I worked out that you don't actually have to make jokes about people being ill. You can make jokes about running out of loo roll, which is actually what most people's experience, you know, that sort of less than 1% of the country have ever caught it, but we've all had food shortages or loo roll, you know, we've all experienced that, or we've all experienced not being able to see our friends and family. So there are lots of part of the sort of problem of my job is finding what bit of this can I make a joke about, and there usually is a bit of it, you know, there usually is an element that you can find humor in, I hope.
Yeah. All right.
Definitely.
My second question is, do you always aim to portray a comical and funny, light-hearted theme with your art, or does this sometimes remove the core political points you're trying to get across?
It's a great question, and the funnily enough, I'm really just going for the joke, and sometimes I do a cartoon and someone will say the following day, oh, you made a good point there, but I'm not really sure what point I've made. I was just going for the joke. And I think what happens is, to think of a joke, you need to sort of, people often say Matt takes a sideways look at, but that is what cartooning is. You're trying to sort of, funnily enough, if there is a sort of a train strike or something, I start by thinking, well, why could this be a good story? You know, what could possibly be good about this? And so you're always trying to come at every story from a new angle. And occasionally you just think of an unintended consequence or that somebody hadn't thought of, you know, and you can sort of either make something look ridiculous by mocking it or just sort of surprise someone, you know, because it's not what they were. I mean, you always hope that, I mean, your joke is a bit like a surprise, isn't it? It's a sort of unexpected sort of comment or and so you are always looking at things from a slightly skewed point of view, and that's what I do. And occasionally you sort of make a political point by mistake, but it's the joke it's the laugh I'm going for mostly.
Yeah. All right, well, those were really good answers, really
fantastic
great
question.
speaking with you.
Yeah, really great opportunity.
It was really enjoyable. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.